Imagine you're enjoying a sunny afternoon at your home in Florida. You step outside to check the mail, open an envelope, and find a formal lawsuit demanding you appear in a courtroom, all the way in Alaska. The immediate panic sets in. Are you legally obligated to buy a plane ticket, travel 4,000 miles, and defend yourself in a place you've never even visited? To answer that, we have to look at a concept called personal jurisdiction. In simple terms, this is a court's legal power over you as a specific individual. Our legal system is built on a standard called due process. This rule acts as a guarantee of fairness, ensuring that courts cannot drag you across the country to face a lawsuit unless they have a genuinely fair reason to do so. You cannot simply hide from a lawsuit by crossing state lines. But at the same time, the Constitution guarantees that you will not be forced to defend yourself on a hostile home court without a legally valid reason. In sports, playing on someone else's turf puts you at a massive disadvantage. The legal system operates the exact same way. Because traveling to another state to fight a lawsuit is such a heavy burden, the rules for a court to establish its home court advantage are very strict. There are 3 simple, undisputed ways a state court can lock in that power over you. The first is domicile. If you live in a state and intend to stay there, that state's courts permanently have jurisdiction over you. The second is consent. You can simply agree to a state's jurisdiction. This happens all the time, often tucked away in the fine print of a business contract or user agreement you sign. The third is physical presence, sometimes known as the tag you're it rule. If someone hands you official legal papers while you are physically inside the borders of a state, that state now has power over you. There are strict exceptions to protect you here. A court will deny this jurisdiction if you were dragged into the state by force, tricked into crossing the border through fraud, or if you are only in town to attend a different legal proceeding. In these 3 scenarios, your connection to the state is obvious. Because you live there, agreed to the rules, or stepped inside the borders, giving the local court power over you is completely fair. This animated diagram illustrates a much trickier scenario. What happens when a state wants to reach someone who doesn't live there, didn't consent, and isn't physically present? States rely on a rule called a long-arm statute to try and reach across borders, but the Constitution acts as a barrier to that long reach. The arm is blocked at the state line unless the defendant has established what the law calls minimum contacts with that targeting state. To prove these minimum contacts exist, we look for a concept called purposeful availment. This means the defendant actively and intentionally directed their actions, their products, or their business toward that specific state. Because the defendant purposefully reached out to do business in that state, they should reasonably expect that they might get sued there. The legal connection is established. Contrast that with an accident. If you just drive through a state once, or if you sell a product locally and a customer later takes it across the country, that isn't enough. Your activity has to be systematic and continuous to count. Out-of-state jurisdiction only triggers if you voluntarily choose to reap the benefits of interacting with that state's economy. If you choose to profit there, it is fair that you face the legal consequences there. Let's bring this all back to our homeowner in Florida, staring at a lawsuit from a court in Alaska. We can run through our easy tests first. They do not live in Alaska, did not consent to its rules, and weren't physically served there. Next, we apply the minimum contacts test. The Florida resident has no systematic business in Alaska and has directed no purposeful activity toward the state. That test completely fails. This checklist shows the exact steps you can use to test any jurisdiction scenario. You look for domicile, consent, physical presence, and minimum contacts. Because our Florida resident meets exactly 0 of those requirements, they can legally dismiss the summons. The court in Alaska simply has no legal power over them. State borders act as invisible legal boundaries protecting your rights. No matter where a dispute originates, the law ensures you can only be forced to play defense in a court where you have fairly and willingly stepped onto the field.